Channel 250. Please remember to download both the BarnBurner and Zingo TV apps in their respective app stores on both iOS and Android devices. This show can be seen on Roku and Roku Fire TV Sticks, as well as Amazon Fire TV Sticks and Google Chromecast and all smart TVs 2016 forward. So, like I mentioned, it's an overcast day here in the GTA, but that doesn't mean that OHL hockey isn't on the mend, because, man, it certainly is. There's so much to get into. So with regards to the return to play that I spoke about with the CHL last week, more specifically the QMJHL, I wanted to get into more about how they're expecting to mold themselves back into play, given that preseason for the QMJHL started last week, and there was a lot of twists and turns and a very different look to what training camp is actually supposed to look like for major junior. So, while the OHL hasn't exactly figured out the details of this, though they are supposed to be returning to play with their own training camp in what I believe is the next week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of exactly what this might look like in the OHL, given that the QMJHL has started. There are games being played in Nova Scotia right now, the Halifax Mooseheads being home to one of the preseason camps. So that being said, let's delve right into this. So, this is obviously going to look very different, and, teams have to go by division in terms of safety precautions, which I think is very much a given. Those that are in Quebec have no issues, because most of the teams in the QMJHL are in fact in Quebec. There are only a few that are outside, but they're in New Brunswick, they're in Nova Scotia, and so I'd expect those teams to be playing nearby one another. I do know that the Halifax Mooseheads actually played against the St. John Sea Dogs last week for preseason camp in Nova Scotia, which was I don't think anyone could say you didn't expect that. So, while that's kind of what you can expect, just given that, this is a different way of living, we are still going to see action with Quebec-based teams. Question is, how are they going to pull it off? Major junior, you don't really fly a lot. You bus places, and, in terms of how that's going to be maybe more of a challenge with this pandemic is, again, remains to be seen, but that's besides the point here. So let's get into it a little bit. So, this is, or maybe before I even start that, I'll say this. So I spoke about the teams that are in Nova Scotia. I've spoken about the teams that are in Quebec, but, and New Brunswick. There's also a team in Prince Edward Island. There's a lot of shifting parts to the QMJHL. Yes, there aren't a lot of teams outside Quebec, but still, it's enough that there are, added precautions and things that will be in place and challenges to overcome. So with that being said, this is kind of what it looks like. Given that the QMJHL will face a direct impact on how the OHL and Western Hockey League both return to play. Now, obviously, given that the QMJHL has been given the green light in some respect to return to preseason action, the players have added precautions to how they enter facilities each time they do. But before we even get into that, here's a statement from Sea Dogs president and general manager Trevor Georgie. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel great. We're really excited that we're able to start hockey back. Hockey, like in most CHL markets, is not just the local sport or hangout. It creates a sentiment of normalcy and of community and gives people something to cheer about. So that being said, here's kind of the weirdness to, QMJHL camps and what we can expect for the OHL upon its return to some sort of season. I mean, again, they're expecting a December 1st start, and 60 games is what I believe is they're going for from 64. So that won't be a huge difference, but here's how the difference will obviously make when they first arrive at, that said arena. If they're clear, they can head to the New Brunswick rink wearing a mask and enter through a players only door where they undergo a temperature check. Now, if they pass that, it's off to the dressing room. Masks are still mandatory, therefore firmly in place, as written by Josh Brown of the Waterloo Region Record, who did an excellent story on this. And then from there, it's just one of those routines that has changed for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League Club, which started exhibition play now about 3 weeks back. So here's how this works. There are more rules for players and coaches, obviously, as well as the staff when they're on the bench and such. Team travel has been affected, like I mentioned, to start off today. And, even the way fans receive tickets, to watch game action is different, especially for those regions that are allowed to have fans, unlike others. Quebec, again, completely closed it off, but, the Nova Scotia portion, New Brunswick, there's a degree of, allowance that's supposedly being given there. So as we move on, here's kind of the implication part. So let's jump into how the season's been changed. So due to COVID-19, again, it's a 60-game regular season schedule for the QMJHL as well. And with that being said, here is, kind of the ideal that, or the ordeal, should I say, that got us to this point. So Brown writes that it took months of meetings and committees to reach this point, according to QMJHL Commissioner Gilles Courteau. He consulted public health units in 4 different provinces and created more than a dozen return to play plans, which are constantly being tweaked to comply with safety standards. The league has a leg up on its CHL partners in the OHL and Western Canada, in that the pandemic is relatively under control in the Maritimes, where 1/3 of its teams reside. But it's a different story in Quebec, which has now more than 65,000 cases of COVID-19, about 20 more than Ontario. So Courteau said he's pushed ahead in part from a desire to make sure the league didn't lose players, coaches, and other staff to rival leagues, which is obviously something you would think about. The OHL has already to the DEL and other more specific leagues, such as one in Paris. That being said, here's where I think we're going to start when we talk about Courteau and what he's done. He said that he pushed ahead in part from a desire to make sure the league didn't lose players, coaches, and other staff to rival leagues, like I said. And to that note, Courteau says it has been a positive experience. No players have tested positive thus far for the coronavirus. So the game day experience from practice to puck drop obviously looks a little bit different. As mentioned, offers a glimpse of what the OHL can expect and what you fans can expect from the stands, that you don't get to see what happens when players first enter, which normally is very casual. To get off their bus, at the bus exit under where the tunnels are, and they start their warm-ups and whatnot. So there's more checks and more added precautions, obviously distancing in place when it comes to locker rooms, and just to make sure that things are as well off as possible, that when they hit the ice there are no concerns. And this is visiting and home locker rooms. So moving on, he says this is something that the OHL again will likely see if the league makes good on its proposed return date of December 1st. And for players, this means more checks and more checks. So in St. John, anyone exhibiting symptoms gets passed from the COVID-19 manager to the team's pool of 8 doctors. Suspect players are isolated from the club immediately. They say even if it's just the sniffles, it's, you have to be careful. You have to be so careful, because again, we know how viral infections can spread, and we know how much COVID-19 can spread and cause a wildfire right then and there. So they're doing everything they can, but the return of sports is important for community reasons, for player reasons, and so they're trying to make do with that and make it all happen. So anyways, Brown goes on to say around the team, it's masked in the dressing room, hallway, office, then further on, just around the arena. So with that in mind, it gives you a sense of, the new reality, at least the next little while the vaccine continues to be developed and made available into North America. This could very well be until the end of 2020-21. There's no way to know, but, better be safe than sorry, isn't it? So, this is just to give you an idea of how players will be feeling things out, but obviously there's more complexity for the OHL in that 3 of their teams play in the United States. And with that in mind, there's going to be more troublesome, only because, I see it this way. The borders are closed right now. They've been closed since the start of this, being December and January. So can they open the borders by December or January? And the question, I think, is no to that. And I think that that makes things very difficult, because, these teams are made up of some who have finished school and those who are still in school, those who live with their parents and some who live with their billet parents. And should they have to move to Canada and split arena time or what have you, the concern becomes, how does any of that work? Can they live in a hotel? Is that functionable? And I've in the QMJHL, they are living in hotels for preseason, so it's doable. Question is, have they gone that far yet in the OHL? And David Branch has not recently spoken to a further degree of what this all looks like, so there's not a whole lot to know about there. But I'll get into what a hotel routine would look like, given that, again, this is something else that they're playing around with well in Nova Scotia for preseason training camp. So, coaches are also supposed to wear masks and goggles on the bench, as I noted too, how precautions are different within the hallways, office, bus, and hotels. On the bus, obviously, I don't, because hockey teams are so large, I kind of doubt that there's a social distancing that happens there. I think that's the one thing they probably trust. But again, all masks are mandatory through that. When you enter hotels, they are supposed to be on, and in the hallways of the hotels, I'm sure they're on as well, just like they are when you're in the halls of the respective arena. Anyways, so the Sea Dogs held training camp, like I mentioned, and players had their own hotel rooms. They didn't share, and each was equipped with weights, an exercise bike, and had locally sourced food such as salmon and quinoa delivered to their door. So, there's no, person-to-person contact, which is obviously a strong sentiment for COVID-19. And given that this is, a way to escape any of that concern. So, again, unique circumstances, but the fact that in a hotel room that they can put a training bike in everyone's room is amazing. That couldn't have been easy to pull off and make sure that they could do, especially with the amount of resources. The athletic coaches and equipment managers are fantastic, and this is part of the trade-off. I don't know if they'll be able to do this in the OHL, but the fact that sure this isn't a perfect time, they're certainly impressing with how much they are able to do. So that being said, I mentioned only this part on last week's in the last 5 minutes of the show, saying players are encouraged to stay within the billet rink, school loop, and not attend parties or social gatherings with people who aren't in their bubble. Now, the OHL has had this problem in the past, given that a case actually came up during the summer from a former Kitchener Ranger, Eric Guest, who went to parties and was hazed and treated unfairly. And, that became a whole thing. I'm not going to get into that out of respect for him. But, if you're going to parties, you've got to be careful with how much you're consuming, etc. But now you can't go to parties anyways because of safety precautions if you want to get the virus. So, I think the players understand that the reality is that, this is, off the ice, this is a commitment to keeping everyone safe. Therefore, do your schoolwork, keep your head down, try and keep busy, work out, but do not attend social gatherings. With the team, I'm sure gatherings in hotel community rooms are okay. Lounges and stuff, movie theaters or whatever for however long they're there, I'm sure that that's okay. But no one else, no parties among other communities when you're in it, such as Kitchener, which has been known, at least in connection to Wilfrid Laurier University, to be somewhat of a party destination. And that's in connection to the off-campus parties, which have no direct connection to the school. But, it's a way, again, to avoid anything major that could harm a player in any such way, not just safety, but, no one needs to put their lives in danger for any particular reason. So anyways, that being said, here's this from Georgie. Most teams think short term and not in the grand scheme. We made it clear that if you want to play games and compete for a championship, that they had to do their part. Ultimately, if they want the season to finish and play hockey, you do this. If not, you could be part of the cause for this ending. And no one wants that. Nobody wants that. If you're gonna go out there and ruin it for everyone, then that sucks. And I think that given off, especially the players in Quebec, seeing how bad that it's been in Quebec for the last 6 months now, I think they have the reality they cannot go anywhere, because if you go anywhere, it's outside of the team, it's going to spread, and that's very quickly going to end things for everyone in the QMJHL, which is the unfortunate reality of this, because in Quebec, it's picked up a wildfire, and not to say that it's worse than Ontario, because Ontario has seen more than 1,000 cases in the last 3 days, but like, this is something that's killed a lot more in Quebec, unfortunately, as it is. And so we've got to be extremely careful with, how we proceed and decide to, ultimately conduct ourselves. This is a tricky road to navigate, but the thing is, if you can do it, because you're not wearing a mask for you, you're wearing a mask for those around you, you're protecting others, and by protecting others, you're also doing your due diligence, because the masks are also supposed to be stronger than medical masks if you're wearing ones that are fabric, to avoid droplets that would get through quite easily on medical masks, and those droplets of COVID-19 could sink into your system very fast, and within days you could start presenting symptoms, and nobody wants that. So let's move on. So after Georgie's statement, here's what was said. Like I said, QMJHL teams will play 12 games against 5 different foes in 3 divisions based on geography, with 83% of the clashes running on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So that's going to be a little different. And if the OHL proceeds this way, which I can't imagine they would, that could also look very different, given that the OHL has always run on a bi-weekly basis of Tuesdays and Thursdays, at least for home games in Kitchener by these standards, Mondays and Tuesdays, or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Mississauga, for say, as another team I covered. So if they have to transition to a weekend schedule, it might be better for viewership and therefore revenue if it's all streamed online, which, imagining it will be, as the QMJHL has made the right decision logically, given how it's been worse there previously, that this is the best option for now. Anyways, that being said, geography is something else we can expect, that the Ontario teams play each other in Ontario, and if the American teams have to reside in Ontario, they will, and we go from there. So again, it's all about geography, which they will figure out, and hopefully we get an updated return to play plan in the near future to give us a better idea. But as far as that goes, by limiting travel, the league is hoping to reduce the number of nights spent in hotels. Again, this written by Josh Brown of the Waterloo Region Record. So that being said, limiting travel and therefore limiting nights in hotels, sure, they're doing this for preseason, but the reality is once they get to the regular season, they see how things either progress or slim down in terms of cases. Either way, I think hotels might actually be the safer option just for this year. Obviously it's going to take a lot of negotiating, a lot of scheduling and whatnot, but that's my impression, at least. But we'll see how things proceed. Again, I think in the OHL there's going to be no option but to have the use of hotels, but we'll see. That said, this is from General Manager Cam Russell, General Manager of the Halifax Mooseheads. You're going to find some tremendous rivalries. There's going to be some dissension, which is, sorry, I'm going to see if I can find the rest of that quote. There's going to be some dissension, which is good in hockey. We're just so excited to be back that we're happy with whatever schedule they give us. And obviously you can see that the players have this feeling of excitement within them. I think that that's incredibly important. They've kept their heads down. They've started skating alone or with just one trainer at a local rink to make sure that they're as much into game shape as they possibly can be. Being in shape is one thing. Being in game shape is another thing. Making sure that your skating is up to par, up to speed. Crucial. The strength obviously is there. Training camp and time alone with trainers and time to test that and make sure that you're ready physically. There's so much that goes into it. So I will leave that there. But let's kind of move on a little bit. Capacity, obviously, one of the biggest questions that we reside on with COVID-19. And the thing is, again, the QMJHL was looking at the possibility, which was, perhaps mind blowing. And obviously, the CHL said no. So, that being said, you have to imagine there's a financial backer of sorts helping to make sure the CHL stays afloat despite no fans, which means no revenue via tickets. Anyways, when you look at what fan expectations can be like, sure, the season's going to start off with none. Will the QMJHL season end with none? And here's kind of where that thought lies, at least for now. Brown writes that Quebec-based clubs are starting the season without fans, but hope to add them at some point. Again, if it's deemed safe. Rinks in the Maritimes can operate at 20 to 25% capacity. Again, we have to remember that Quebec is far from that point, but the Maritimes might just be able to pull it off. And yes, there will be social distancing measures put in effect as far as, making sure that fans can, or spectators rather, if you like that word better, can attend games and keep themselves at a 6-foot distance. So let's say one family's in one row, another family in 2 rows back, and both the first seat and the last seat in the rows, either way, have to be clear. So this is going to look very different. Arenas are going to be emptier. This is the new way of life as we're going to know it for now. So that reality sucks and all, but this is what it is. So anyways, that being said, at St. John's TD station, fans must wear masks unless eating or drinking and can't have other spectators in the row in front or behind them. Like I mentioned, must be at least 2 rows back. The 3 seats to the left and right of groups must also be clear, so not just the first seat, as I mentioned. So there is going to be, a lot of spatial awareness. I imagine that event security and staff will be present, and for them at full volume, making sure that that gets done successfully. And so it's going to be very, very different. Usually you'd watch a hockey game, you'll see a full lower bowl, even for junior hockey, because junior hockey is actually more popular than you would think for those of you who are more so newcomers. But these players are those who from the QMJHL, from the WHL, from the OHL, who are draft eligible prospects, and those who have made such impressions to get a shot in the NHL. So, don't kid yourself if you're someone who's new to this, but this is going to be very different to watch. It's going to be, games are going to be silent. It's going to be potentially even awkward, but the broadcasters and staff are ready. And we're just gonna have to make do with whatever life looks like as we continue to move forward with this pandemic. Anyways, let's move on. So, okay, so I think this is what a lot of players are thinking. I think that Russell, GM of the Mooseheads, really hit this thought right on the head. So, only entering the arenas for fans if and when they reach that point. Here's what that'll look like. Nothing other than small purses, and the paperless tickets will only be will be allowed in the arena, and paperless tickets will only be sold to groups of 2 to 6 people. Otherwise, again, tickets will be sold online and done completely by a virtual system offered by the league and their teams. Anyways, so this is from Russell. I think people are just so used to following the rules right now and that it won't be a problem. You'd love to have a sold out rink, but we know it's not going to happen for a little while yet. We are just happy to be back at the rink playing and seeing some fans in the building, which they're not presently. So that's perhaps getting a little too ahead, but the possibility of knowing that can happen is certainly excellent to keep in mind, especially keeping the optimism alive, because it's so hard to keep satisfied with this. So it's you're pushing to get to that point, but everyone's got to do their part, and I think that's the big message to take away from this article. So that being said, Brown goes on to say nobody's debating that the extra care is worthwhile, but it does cost more. Commissioner Georgie said it would be cheaper to start later or not even have a season at all. Same goes to the Mooseheads, who say from Russell, our owners understand that they are going to lose money this year. It's going to be a difficult year for sure. And again, that's because they're going to have to help to, it's not just going to be up to whoever the financial investor or supporter, whatever this looks like, because again, I haven't been given details, so I can only assume as much as the viewers can here. This could be hard because the owners aren't going to be, again, getting revenue via ticket sales. They're actually going to have to pitch in, is what I believe is going to happen a little bit as well, to help out the investor or investors. Again, I don't have a lot of details on this at this time. So this is unfortunate, but this is the lay of the land, and the economy has struggled. So if fans are able to get back in the arena at some point, it will be, an exciting time. It'll be a reality kick, seeing that, okay, life is getting better. We're on the uprise. Let's continue to keep positive, and let's continue to do our part and see the numbers go down and get back to normal life, along with the vaccine as it comes in, which talks say might be January, but again, who knows if that's true. We're a long way away from it. So there's a lot to put into consideration there, but it is what it is. Anyways, junior hockey has always been more about the money, Brown says, and honestly, he's very right. It's about community togetherness. It's about the love of the game. And, I've seen that working in Kitchener this year, having the odds sold out, even on a random Tuesday or Thursday, which is incredible, 7,000 seats. And whereas in a city like Mississauga, you don't see that. They don't even come remotely close to that. So I think that's really special. And even around the holiday season, they don't come close to that. Kitchener does. And I think that that's something you can hold close to you. It's a very special feeling. I was never in a small town. It's not something I've had the pleasure of, bearing witness to, but this has been a really special experience, and seeing that the love and the care for one another comes out so strongly is about as special as it gets. And it's not just for the care for the players and love for them, it's for the fans, for each other, and for the staff who make these events happen, from ushers to everyone in the team stores to everyone else who does their job for us. That would be the media coordinators and whatnot. So, huge shout out to them. And it's going to be a challenging season, but, here's hoping that something comes out of it. Because another thing we have to keep in mind is that for the media, and this is something I've been in communication with about with OHL, is that, the media, they're trying to figure out how to make this happen, because in the ECHL, when COVID first hit, there was a gate that parted media and the players respectively. And so what happened was that gate was far enough back that it was about 6 feet. So, audio, when you're recording, your questions and trying to get an answer, you can't exactly hear it when you play it back later. It's hard because you're not going to get silence when you're in scrums and whatnot. That's just me, a thing that I'm going to ramble about for a minute. And, I don't expect that to be the case everywhere this year. I expect that, and, again, the OHL, I said this yesterday to someone, that they don't have podiums or media tables, but perhaps it's something that they will this season, because I assume that Zoom will be the tool that is used for media to communicate post game for questions or anything. The PR teams continue to work at it. I've been in communication with the Kitchener Rangers, who have not reached a conclusion yet, but are continuing to work to getting to that point. So, there's something to keep in mind on the media side, but, in terms of the difficulty to even get to this point, there's a statement here that says, it was a tough 5 or 6 months staying so close to home and not having anywhere to go, nothing to look forward to. So, you get the idea of, why this is such an important return, and what makes, hockey, as significant as it is, especially in parts of, Ontario and Quebec, that, there's not much else to do, really, essentially, is what it comes down to. And so they find their love for that one team and they rally around, and that's how they get day by day. And yes, it's junior hockey, but who cares? Because as far as they're concerned, OHL is actually very professional. Especially when you look at the OJHL, you see the vast difference. And so, with that in mind, it's like, the OHL does an excellent job. They've got food stands, they've got ushers, they've got media. The media get their notes and whatnot, as I do, and there's so much that goes into it, and it's so professional where you won't find this at other levels of junior A or B. So, this is a challenging time, but everyone is simply making the best of it. So, that being said, let's move on to the Kitchener Rangers now, who I've touched on several times, as only players signed to contracts are being invited to Rangers training camp, which is a developing story from last week. So here's how things look, as again written by Josh Brown. Just because of the unusual circumstances of the novel coronavirus, general manager and head coach Mike McKenzie says the Ontario Hockey League club will stick to sign players when training camp begins November 15th. Anyways, in a statement, he says, "We wish we could bring everyone in and take a look at them and get to know them. But with the COVID-19 situation, we're going to focus on guys we know are a part of this team this year and jump right into the start of the season." So Brown goes on to say, and this is, pretty general realization, that typically the Rangers invite enough drafted players and free agents to training camp to fill out 2 teams. Players go through fitness testing, participate in workouts and drills, and play a couple of inter-squad games under the watchful eye of the team scouting staff, which for the Kitchener Rangers is quite large. So, this isn't an easy situation, but again, when you look at how all systems work in junior hockey training camps, Brown goes on to note that those who make a big impression sometimes earn a contract at the end, not so much this season. And, when we talk about those who make an impression, Jesse Fishman did enough that he signed his contract for this year and played his rookie season. But, McKenzie goes on to say it will probably look more like a week of practice than actual training camp. And so, while I don't have many more details on that at this time, you can imagine the, unusual look to camp, because now it's going to be one team split into 2 locker rooms to keep distancing measures effective. And again, this is for training camp. And it might not even look like one full team, especially for those who either can't make it at the start or can't make it at all. So numbers could be smaller. Implications could be more challenging. For the Kitchener Rangers, they're already losing out supposedly on Riley Damiani and Sarah Noel, who are taking the next steps in their careers respectively, after losing out on Liam Howell to the Laval Rocket of the AHL, Jonathan Yancey to the Queens Gales, just to name a few. So, a lot of moving parts here. Lucas File also gone. The team parted ways with him 2 weeks ago. So, challenging times ahead, and, with a goaltender wanting to attend camp, but being from the Czech Republic, also going to present challenges. And finding a backup goaltender, as Jackson Parsons, another draft pick goaltender from this year, is not quite ready age-wise. So a lot of moving parts and such. But I just wanted to give you guys the lay of the land of, why we are where we are, and, what challenges really lie ahead, and to give you the sense of the reality that, we're experiencing as the media, seeing this all come together. And then we'll have our own challenges as media. But, this is, if this is the best that they can do, have hotels and send food and provide workout equipment for American teams and such, for the OHL, and, for teams just do everything, as geographically ethical as possible, they might be in an okay position. But again, with the rising numbers the last 3 days, the question begs it, is a December 1st start doable? And quite frankly, there's no answer to that, and there might not be for a while. So with no update further from the OHL at this point, let's move on, because I've got more for you today. So, all right, the Ontario Hockey League, more specifically the Kingston Frontenacs, have announced the addition of a couple new names to their scouting staff, and the additions are Colin Chalk, John McFarland, and Bob Breckles to the organization's scouting staff. Now, in a statement from general manager and head coach Paul McFarland, he says, The hiring of all three of these individuals will add varying perspectives and experiences in the game, along with a ton of knowledge. Our organization believes in the importance of investing in our scouting staff and continuing to connect with our alumni. These three gentlemen will be great resources and valuable members of our scouting staff. And again, now when you look at the scouting staff, this is kind of how things fare for the Frontenacs at this time. And I feel like we talk Frontenacs a lot because since Paul McFarland has been brought on, a lot has changed, and that's for the better. They brought on Corey Cooper most recently as goaltending coach and AGM. But not only that, he'll also be a goaltending scout for the organization. So looking at the Frontenac scouting staff, the head scout is Aaron Van Loosen. Cooper, again, the goaltending scout. Crossover scout, John McFarland. Southwestern Ontario scout is Zach Springer, who works in the Kingston Frontenacs organization, given that he is within the owning family of the hockey club. Colin Chalk is the Toronto area scout. The Eastern Toronto area and additional coverage scout is Rob McRae. The Kingston area scout is Dick Cherry. The Ottawa area scout is Adam Dewin. And the Northern Ontario scout is Brent Gavro. And the Midget Junior A scout is Bob Breckles. So again, a lot of moving parts there as well. And to give you some background on some of them, Bob Breckles, the director of hockey operations for the Cobourg Cougars in the OJHL, will oversee U18 midget and free agent scouting. Breckles has a lengthy career in scouting, having worked for both the Drummondville Voltigeurs of the QMJHL as their Ontario scout and for the Stouffville Spirit of the OJHL as their director of scouting. So, a lot of changes, a lot of, sensible transactions, obviously. So I think that that's going to help the success of this organization, especially given that they've lost their goaltender and they might lose two players. I can report that Wong will not be moved. I've been told that via a source within close range to the Kingston Frontenacs. But given that two might be moved in addition to Prop, who's now made the move to the Laurier Golden Hawks as their goaltender in U Sports and the OUA. These scouts are going to do their part and try and find replacements. Again, we still have a while, so not a lot of stress nor urgency for that matter. So let's move on now, just to a couple small notes, and then I'll wrap up with kind of the bigger story that comes out of the Ontario Hockey League for this week. So for starters, I touched very lightly on this in last week's episode. So that being said, the Firebirds have acquired forward Sahil Panwar from the London Knights. And in a statement from Firebirds Vice President of Hockey Operations and GM Barclay Branch, he says, "We're looking forward to Sahil arriving in Flint. Sahil has untapped potential that will translate well to our style of play and will be a nice addition to our forward group." So to give you an idea of the player Panwar is, a native of Mississauga, Ontario, he was London's second-round pick, 23rd overall in the 2018 OHL priority selection. The 6'1", 180-pound forward recorded 11 points with the London Knights, 6 goals, 5 assists, and 20 penalty minutes in 74 career OHL games. Panwar was also chosen among Canada's best hockey players in 2018 when he was invited to Hockey Canada's World Under-17 Challenge. And so he brings some national team knowledge and experience to the Flint Firebirds via this trade. So in a statement from Panwar, he says, "I'm excited for this new opportunity and a fresh start. I'm ready to help the Firebirds now and bring a championship to Flint." So let's take a look at Panwar's days prior to the OHL, where he played his youth hockey locally in the state of Michigan, where he led the Detroit Honey Baked Midget Minor 16U AAA Hockey Club in points, amassing 62 points, doing so on 23 goals and 39 assists. So he did that in 50 games played during the 2017-18 season. Now, Panwar is noted to have played a key role with Honey Baked, becoming 2018 playoff champions in the High Performance Hockey League, the HPHL. And so Sahil also spent 2 seasons playing in California, which is a little bit different, as he competed for the Los Angeles Junior Kings in the Tier 1 Elite Hockey League, which is the T1 EHL. So Panwar will report to Flint for the Firebirds training camp on November 16th and will wear number 6 for the organization. So, I don't know that a lot of people saw this move coming, but it's going to be one that certainly gives them way to move forward and gives a player opportunity for more playing time, more success, and ultimately more opportunities. So in this trade, the Firebirds again acquired Sahil Panwar from London Knights in exchange for a fourth-round pick in the 2021 OHL priority selection. So this is this from the London Knights upon the trade, where the London Knights say and this is from Mark Hunter, the team's general manager. The London Knights would like to wish Sahil all the best moving forward. Sahil is a quality person and always demonstrated a strong work ethic while here in London. We believe that Sahil has a bright future ahead of him, and we thank him for his commitment to our organization and wish him all the best in Flint. So again, I mentioned that Panor was selected 23rd overall. This was in the second round of the 2018 OHL priority selection. Joining the Knights for the 2018-19 season, Panwar played 2 seasons for London, and with those 74 games in which he played, recording 6 goals and 5 assists for 11 points. That really it's not a major trade, but there's that at least I can offer. I hope I offered something. So hopefully this is something that pans off, and for Panwar, he'll be closer to home and somewhere familiar that he's played in the state of Michigan, and so being able to play with the Michigan-based team in the OHL, that'll be great for him. So that being said, let's move on to something else within London Knights territory, where Hunter Skinner, who is a defenseman for the organization, he was invited to the U.S. National Junior Team Evaluation Camp ahead of the upcoming OHL season. So taking a look at Hunter Skinner now, who's number 83 and a defenseman for the team. He played 62 games this past season, where he scored 6 goals and 26 assists. He did that for 32 points. He had a plus 22 differential and also added 51 penalty minutes. So, these are opportunities that players like this can't pass up, because it gives them the experience of working with national team programs and the very experienced coaches who run them, being sanctioned on by Hockey Canada or USA Hockey respectively. And it'll be able to advance his skill level a little bit too, which is obviously something of importance. So, this is, I don't know a lot of details on this, but this is something that is going to be perhaps a step up for the kid in playing, the strongest game that he knows how to play. That way he can bring back to the London Knights an opportunity that you can't pass away. So, now here's the dates for that, as Hunter is one of 39 players invited to the U.S. National Junior Team Evaluation Camp, and that being October 8th to 13th at USA Hockey Arena in Plymouth, Michigan. The camp will be closed to the public, as many can expect, including fans, scouts, and media. So, that's going to be very different as usual, as one would expect. So that being said, Skinner, 19 years old, was a 4th-round pick, 112th overall of the New York Rangers in the 2019 NHL draft, and he recorded 32 points over 62 games in his first OHL season with the Knights in 2019-20. So again, at 6'2" and 187 pounds, native of Pinckney, Michigan. He was originally chosen by the Knights in the 5th round at 97th overall of the 2017 OHL priority selection. So the camp is part of the evaluation process in selecting the U.S. national junior team that will compete in the 2021 IIHF World Junior Championship, which starts December 25th, 2020 through to January 5th of 2021 in Edmonton, Alberta at Rogers Place. So, the National Hockey League season has ended, and junior hockey will not exactly be started up by that point. But what will be nice is that those who have gotten themselves into enough shape, given the unusual circumstances, because usually they'd be playing by now and so on and so forth, there will be hockey. Yes, there's going to be this weird month without hockey, but the world, or weird 2 months, I should say. This whole year's been weird and schedules are awry and stuff. Yes, they'll be at training camp, but it's all about how you consider it. But come December, when the World Juniors take off, it's going to be something that we can rally around. The stands will be empty for the World Juniors as well, as the Federation has gone on to say. But this is at least doing their due diligence, and national team camp will give them opportunity to work alongside others. Of course, there will be distancing measures in place and all, just given the state of the world that we are in. So the United States enters the 2021 World Juniors following a fourth place finish at the 2020 event in Ostrava and Černík, Czech Republic. The Americans won silver at the 2019 event, which was held at Rogers Place in Vancouver, British Columbia. So for further information, you can check out usahockey.com as stated by the London Knights. But here's the roster that Hunter Skinner will be joining on the U.S. national team. So this includes John Beecher, Matthew Boldy, Brendan Brisson, John Farinacci, Owen Lindmark, Josh Nodler, Sam Stange, Lucas Svechkovsky, Dylan Peterson, Robert Masters Simon, Sean Farrell, Cole Caulfield, who is perhaps one of the most highly touted prospects around in the NHL, having been drafted last year by the Montreal Canadiens. Thomas Bordeleau, another one who's highly spoken of, Matthew Beniers, Brett Berard, Bobby Brink, who is from the state of Minnesota and has been certainly looked at. These are a lot of top names, as one could expect. So Sam Colangelo joins the fold along with Michael Gilden, Patrick Moynihan, Landon Slaggert, and Luke Touche. So that's just the forward group. The defense group looks like this: Brock Faber, Drew Hellison, Jackson Lacombe, Mitchell Miller, Hunter Skinner, Henry Thrun, Marshall Warren, Dominic Fencer, Ryan Johnson, Case McCarthy, Jake Sanderson, again, who is certainly getting all the eyes ahead of the draft, Jaden Struble, Montreal Canadiens prospect from Northeastern University with the Huskies, Alex Vlasic, and Cam York, another one. Goaltenders: Drew Comesso, who you can find a story on at thepuckauthority.com later today from the USN TDP. Logan Stein, Spencer Knight, another strong goaltender, and Dustin Wolf, another strong goaltender. So, the waves of this team are insane and give opportunity to those who show that they deserve it and whose product is, standout level. So, that being said, we've got so much to look forward to, and the NHL draft is being held virtually October 6th and 7th. That being said, this is an exciting time because the OHL really gets to take part when it comes to the NHL drafts, for many years, many have and will continue to be eligible and looked at and play to the strongest of their abilities. This is an exciting time, like I mentioned. Junior hockey, yes, it cannot be played right now, or at least in front of fans. Training camps will look different. Training at home has been different. But don't get me wrong, these players are, among the best. And so with that being said, I'm going to use my final 7 minutes wisely, and I do that for this reason. So that being said, an obvious OHL headline perhaps is that 10 OHL graduates have won the Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So with more respect to that, here's kind of what this looks like, given that we just watched, a tremendous event finish in Edmonton behind closed doors in the OHL bubble or NHL bubble. And, nobody thought that this was going to be done easily, but not a single case. They were not interrupted. Not majorly effective. The National Hockey League deserves a lot of credit for the job they did to get teams in and out with no issues. Hotels and management of keeping yourselves occupied and using time appropriately off the ice. It was all done to perfection, and these are men who get it. So huge props to them before I move on. Now, the Tampa Bay Lightning captured the Stanley Cup, and the cup was first handed to Steven Stamkos. Despite the fact that he only played in one game in this postseason and scored a goal in that one game, which is a story no one could have written any better. That being said, from the OHL, we look at Sarnia Sting graduate Steven Stamkos, And then Anthony Sorelli, who played for the Erie Otters and Oshawa Generals, Barclay Goudreau, who played for the North Bay Battalion, and this is after he graduated from the Country Day School Cyclones, where he went to school, which is something that I'm only pointing out given some familiarity to that region. And, I thought that was kind of cool myself. That being said, Pat Maroon with the London Knights and Mikhail Sergachev with the Windsor Spitfires, and he suited up in all 22 games of the Bolts playoff run. And so, I think that this is a very special time because you realize the success of the Ontario Hockey League and, how significant that becomes after such a run like this, especially through uncharted waters and the way it was handled and how these players have progressed from the point of junior to, fandom almost, I would say. And so, or not almost for all of them, obviously Steven Stamkos, he's, the leader of the team, and that's just the lay of the land. So, let's take a look at some of the things that were done. Maroon had an assist in Monday's cup clinching win. This is his second straight year winning the cup after winning as a member of the St. Louis Blues in 2019. Sorelli, on the other hand, becomes the Stanley Cup champion, having also won a Memorial Cup title with Oshawa in 2015, along with a pair of Robertson Cup championships with Oshawa in 2015 and Erie in 2017. Sergachev joins him in that category, having won the Memorial Cup as a member of the Windsor Spitfires in 2017. So you see the impact that really resonates throughout the league. Barclay Goudreau becomes the first Brampton/North Bay Battalion alumnus to win the Stanley Cup, doing so having been the club's final captain during its 15-year tenure in Brampton from 98 to 2013 before making the move to North Bay. Zach Bogosian from the Peterborough Petes is crowned a Stanley Cup champion in his 12th professional season. Entering the playoffs, he hadn't played a postseason matchup since he was a member of the Petes in 2007-2008. So you get an idea of why this is so significant and such a big deal. And so I only have now about, 3 more minutes with you. So during those minutes, I'm going to treat those minutes carefully. Carter Verhaeghe, another one who played the Niagara Ice Dogs from 2011 to 2015. Scott Wedgwood, the Plymouth Whalers, 2008-2012. They are now defunct. And then you look at the hockey operations staff, amateur scout Robert Kitamura, former director of OHL Central Scouting. So, there's a lot to be proud of, and, rightfully so. The OHL is at a tremendous level right now, and they're making the future happen. So I'm excited to see what this year's draft looks like. Some names that you can keep an eye on, as I don't think I will be getting to you guys again before the draft, and I can just go ahead and confirm that right now. I will be joining you guys last day of the draft. So here's some standout names to look forward to. Jack Quinn, Ottawa 67s. Marco Rossi, Ottawa 67s. Obviously 2 names to keep on top of your mind. I think that Ottawa is a region for success. I'm not saying anywhere else isn't, because simply that's not the case. Obviously there's Jamie Drysdale, Cole Perfetti, Jacob Perrault, Tyson Forster. List could go on of those who are deserving of, top spots or top selections for that matter in the draft. Antonio Stranges, I'm just tossing out a bunch of names of people who I've spoken with this year, and those who have really stood out and will make certainly a difference. So Luke Evangelista is another one from the London Knights. Jerome Pitlick, if you look at the Sioux Greyhounds. Then Ty Tullio from the Oshawa Generals, Oliver Sooney from the Oshawa Generals, and yeah, I said Stranges. I said Peralt, Donovan Sabrango from the Kitchen Rangers, and that is really going to finish it off as just a couple. As if I keep rambling, I will eventually run out of time with you here on this week's episode of the OHL Experience. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find me on Twitter, keep up with everything OHL Draft at Justin Levine HBS. Make sure to follow the Ontario Hockey League at OHL Hockey and BarnBurner Net on Twitter at BarnBurner Net. And you can also find them on Instagram with that handle, as well as I believe on Facebook. That brings this show to a wrap. I will have full coverage for you of the NHL draft as it happens from day one. Once I come into next week's show on the 7th, where night 2 will take place after the show concludes. So that does it for me on this week's episode of the OHL Experience. Make sure to keep your eyes on thepuckauthority.com for draft coverage coming at you. We have the top rankings officially from North American Central Scouting, and we have got more content from one of our own on a whole variety of players from different teams, different regions, and our draft team will be working as hard as they can to provide the best. That does it for me. Make sure to keep watching and keep tuned. My name is Justin Levine, signing off.